should be Melissa Fulton from the United Way of Clarion County. Melissa, you there?
I am here.
Hey, we're 1 for 1 on that switch. Let's see if we can hook up this morning with Becky Callanet and see if Becky is with us. She is from the Pennsylvania Rural Arts Alliance. Becky, how'd we do?
I'm on. Thank you so much for letting me call in.
Wow. And Melissa, you're still there?
I am still here.
We can credit Jeff Wacker for making all of that happen.
You are batting 2 for 2.
All right, so let's talk this morning because I've taken up too much of your time here this morning. Jeff, you've got a program coming up very soon, and you're inviting the public to come out.
Exactly. Next Tuesday, December 5th, 6 o'clock, we are going to be presenting on arts grants that are available to the region, and we will be at the Artist Hand Gallery. Brian Jones has obviously a great facility to host things like this, as well as sell art and coffee and salads and everything they do at the Artist Hand. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be there December 5th, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, and each of us are going to be presenting on what kind of grants that we have available. Mm-hmm. So what I can tell you is the brief backstory is that the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, which is the state's arts agency, has funding to re-grant. And the way they do it best is they look for organizations in regions that have the capacity and the skills to re-grant those funds. And it's sort of more of a grassroots approach instead of everybody having to call Harrisburg, the State Arts Council, and try to get a grant. And they always found that pretty much it went always to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And it's a big state.
Yes.
So they've found over the last 25 or 30 years organizations all over the state that are able to re-grant. And they have these different funding streams. And we're each going to talk about briefly what our funding streams are and what they'll hear about next Tuesday night for our particular region, which is Armstrong, Butler, Clarion, Indiana, and Jefferson counties. And we re-grant funds from the State Arts Council to a variety of organizations and people in these 5 counties.
All right. Well, let's talk first with Becky Callanet from the Pennsylvania Rural Arts Alliance. Becky, good morning to you again.
Good morning.
So tell me about your role in this.
Well, my role is in some ways similar to what Jeff mentioned and in some ways a little different. So I need to give you a brief overview of what it is that my partnership is. My organization is a partner in the Folk and Traditional Arts Partnership with the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. And we are looking for and identifying and focusing on artists that are folk artists. So they are not traditionally trained in university. They are people that work with oral traditions, different materials, quilting, sewing, wood carving, family traditions, festivals, a little different from the traditional artists that Jeff and Melissa work with. Mm-hmm. But one of the parts of our project, our program, is a folk arts apprenticeship. So we have an application process where an artist who is a folk artist, who is someone who is skilled in their art, can match with a person who wants to learn that art. So in order to continue the traditions, and there are dollars available to support that program, and that is a once-a-year program. It is coming up in several months, so we are certainly in a time frame where people who are interested in doing this would be able to apply. So it would be an artist working with someone who is not quite so skilled in that particular art, and they're able to get funding to work for a year to teach the art and obviously to continue the tradition so that some of these wonderful folk traditions are not lost.
Yeah, well, that's a good approach. I like that. Now, Melissa Fulton, the United Way of Clarion County, we wouldn't think United Way would be involved in a program such as this, but obviously it is, and the Pennsylvania Partner in the Arts. Tell me how the United Way or how you are a part of all of this.
Well, you're not the only one to not see that connection. When I first went to my board and told them I wanted to apply to be a PA Partner in the Arts, I got some funny looks. I had a lot of questions, but thank goodness they trust me. So with United Way, we focus on health, education, income stability. We want our community to be healthy, and we know that healthy communities have a thriving art environment. Mm-hmm. And so one of the grants that we administer here is our Creative Entrepreneur Accelerator Program. And it's unique in that most grants that come from the state, that come from the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, are intended for nonprofit organizations. And the Creative Entrepreneur Accelerator Program is specifically for-profit businesses, for individuals that are trying to start a business, trying to get a business up and running, somehow related to that creative sector, so they can be a producer, a designer, a traditional artist, as in a painter, photographer type things. And then we partner them with the local small business development centers. We get them a business plan written. We basically prepare them to have a successful business. And if we can, start them off with a $2,000 grant, not even necessarily to support their art, but to support the business that their art creates.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them local, keep them in the community, keep them here, and just give them a reason to keep producing their art locally.
Jeff, when we hear from Becky and Melissa and the way they outline things, and of course the way you do as well, frequently when we talk about the arts, there's sort of an ethereal aspect to it. This is a very tangible thing that you're talking about here.
It's very tangible, and it really is the focus of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts right now. For a few years, since the current executive director was hired, they have been looking at creative community. Those are the two buzzwords, I guess you would say. And how do you get lots of people in a community creating, learning, businesses, murals, you name it, because that's a thriving community that people want to live in. And when you have a place that people want to live, businesses look at that and they decide, that's a nice community. Maybe I'd like to bring a business to that community because look at all the things that they do. So between these three funding streams, there's so many different opportunities for a community to focus on their creativity. Yeah.
We have long focused here in Indiana County on the fact that we're a very arty group of folks here in Indiana County. We've got the university here, of course, and a very thriving arts program there. We've got potters, we've got painters, we've got all of that here in Indiana County. This being a 5-county region, though, that we're talking about here. Becky and Melissa, I'm assuming that you're going to have a lot of information that highlights not only the commonality with Indiana County, but the uniqueness of each of your areas of concern as well.
Yeah, we want to make sure that
I would
folks coming
agree
in,
with
they've
that.
never
Okay, wait, you're both talking at the same
My
time here.
organization has just
There you go.
completed a first year for this folk arts partnership, so we are learning an awful lot. And one thing that we found, well, several things that we found initially. One was that we were not familiar with some of the counties just because we were not. It's a big state. We just were not. And going into those counties, sort of not knowing necessarily what we would found, we found a tremendous wealth of art organizations and people doing a variety of art. And the other commonality that comes back to what you just said was there's many connections. Everybody knows everybody. An artist in Indiana may be quite familiar with somebody in Jefferson County. And putting all those people together and finding the common threads has been a great aspect for us in order to grow our program in a much easier way than we anticipated in the beginning.
Yeah, and Becky, that's, of course, part of the name, actually, of Pennsylvania Rural Arts Alliance, isn't it?
Absolutely. We serve counties that are all completely rural, and as Jeff mentioned earlier about money going to Harrisburg and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, when we meet with partners, all three of us are the same. When we meet with the partners across the state, there's the group that is that understands the big city aspect of things, and there's the other group of those of us that are in the rural communities where we don't have a lot of resources, a lot of assets. We have to figure it all out for ourselves. And it's amazing how much we can accomplish.
Melissa, tell me about your part of the presentation that you'll be making on Tuesday.
So my job is basically just to convince artists that applying for a grant or reaching out for, these opportunities from the state isn't a scary or cumbersome process. We want to make it as easy as possible. And we want to convince people that, sometimes they don't think they're artists. They think they're a maker. They think maybe they just kind of do this on the side. And we want to validate that, yes, you're an artist, and if you can turn this into a business and keep it here and benefit the community, I'm going to do everything I can to walk you through that process. We're going to tell you about the free things that the Small Business Development Center offers, how you can get help with them, and that it's not an overwhelming process that's going to take hours and hours and hours of your day. We're going to start where you are. We're going to, make some plans to figure out where you need to be and come up with the best plan to get you there.
All right. So you both, or all three of you, obviously this program is going to be quite extensive and sounds fascinating. But we want to get people there, Jeff. So how do people come? Do they have to RSVP?
We'd like an RSVP if possible, because there is going to be a little bit of food and reception, and that always makes any arts presentation a lot of fun.
Sure.
Yeah, you got to have a little food. So just to know how much food and things I have, we would like to have a RSVP. And there's a flyer that is out on our Facebooks. I don't have it with me, but I think the RSVP goes to Melissa, and she would have that number and email address.
Yeah, Melissa, you're on.
Yeah, so to RSVP, they can call the United Way office. I am 814-226-8760, or they can send a quick email, and it's just info@uwclarionco.org.
Very good. Well, we thank you all for coming on to explain it to us. Becky, Melissa, thanks for your visit, and Jeff, as you as well.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Fox News is up next at the top of the hour, and then it is a visit from the WCCS newsroom with Josh Whittison.